Welcome to the Protector Culture Podcast with Jimmy Graham. Jimmy is a veteran U.S. Navy SEAL, a former protective officer for the CIA Global Response Staff, founder and CEO of the Able Shepherd Program, a husband and father of 4, and a personal friend of mine. Now here's Jimmy.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Protector Culture Podcast with Jimmy Graham. I'm your host, Jimmy Graham, and with me, special guest, Tyler Weinischke. How you doing, brher?
Great, glad to be here.
Able Shepherd 266.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, awesome, brother, filling in for the BK. Hope you're going well, brother. Travel safe, Godspeed, and we'll see you back here. But I'm calling this one Sitrep 042425. Every once in a while, and it's been a minute to get, and we're coming off of Holy Week, Resurrection Sunday, and all that. And I got to just kind of fill you in and then just air this out on. It's just been amazing, and then find out about yours as well. So let's just get into it. So, let's see. Starting Friday, the 11th of April was March for Life, which means we were downtown, and it's a cool thing. We go March for Life. I always think it should be way bigger, but there was a good turnout. And my wife was like, "I'm bringing the kids," and I'm like, "Okay, now I got to go because it's Denver, right?" So I was going to go anyways, and I was talking to some people about it. When she said it, I was like, okay, now I got to be down there and kind of check the scene out. I had just, before that, had lunch with one of the troopers that's in charge of, those guys are in charge of protecting the Capitol. So I talked to him, and he was there. I got to introduce my son to him. Just some good dudes, and they're still on the steps. I remember seeing Able Shepherd, our domestic terrorist. It's still on there. He's like, I'll get that cleaned off. I don't mind. Like, they've remembered our name. Like, at least evil knows who to hate. And that was cool to see them meet the captain, meet some of those guys. I know a guy way up in the State Patrol, and we just got to talk. Nothing real exciting other than there were some people. I mean, it was exciting to support and a good turnout, but as far as conflict and protests and all that kind of stuff. But it's just good to be there and to be with just good folks and to walk around, and went down the street, around the corner, and up the deal, and there was just tons of people there. But man, I'm hoping next year it's twice, 3 times that. I mean, it should fill that entire space, like standing room only. So that was kind of cool that started that off just before Holy Week. And then Thursday on the 17th, there was a stand at the Capitol, and my pastor, I love seeing pastors leave their churches. Meaning, I know people that aren't standing, and that's unfortunate. Those preachers that just will not shepherd, and that makes me sick. And then I know bold pastors that are bold within the confines of the walls of their church. And I think that's the bare minimum. So good on you, but it's still bare minimum because this is in the town square. This is having the courage to step outside of those walls and bring it to where there is. I mean, to preach to Christians boldly, to go out and say it to where there could be conflict and recourse and all that stuff. So if you're asking people to do it, I say lead from the front, right? Walk the walk. So that was great to see that and get pictures of my pastor doing that at a conflict. Couldn't make it to that one. I was just at the Capitol on the 11th. That happened on the 17th, but I fully support it. Had a lot of guys there. On 18th was Good Friday, and that had me sitting in the courtroom all day in Parker. Absolute victory. And let me just, I won't do this justice, but here's kind of the backstory that leads into the story, right? So a couple years ago in 2023, there was a Pride Fest, and the only reason I was there is because I had, some senior citizens come to me and say, "Do you know they're assaulting us? That we were physically assaulted." And the reason they were there is because there were, and this is all documented, there's pictures, Colorado Free Press, look up the real story of the Men of Pride Fest 2023, and it's a great article with pictures that documents all this, to where there's men that are dressed like women, and they're dancing, and then there's this, a breast hanging out that looks very real with a nipple. They're dancing. It's just absolutely crude music, talking about just horrible things, vulgarity. They're making jokes that are inappropriate, talking about oral sex, all this other stuff, and just some of the names they come up with. They had people performing with children stuffing dollar bills. Then they had children dancing, and they put dollar bills. And they had both bathrooms that were, they said, with urinal without, but open to all. So now they even had a room where it was children only, no adults. Like, these people don't get access to children with no supervision. It's just unhealthy. It's horrible. Our children are being targeted. It's not in the shadows anymore. So anyways, they came, they got abused, and they asked, could we get some men to show up, potentially just keep an eye on us. So I came, and I had put out an invite, and we had over 70 guys there, right? White t-shirts, Stand to Protect Children. On the back, it said, "Jesus loves you, and so do I." And that wasn't a joke. It wasn't tongue-in-cheek. We meant it. We didn't want to go poke them in the eye. I want to say, "Jesus loves you, so do I." But there's a line, and you have crossed it, right? So we stood, it became this big blown up thing. I am actually, what I'm not proud of the local police and the sheriff's department, was that they saw assaults and they did nothing, right? And if they didn't see, they're right there, and many happened, and they did nothing. But when they were asked to, they were just sort of saying that we're going to make us leave. And I said, okay, well, you're going to be arrested? No, okay, if I break the law, you should arrest me. I don't get special favors, right? But are we breaking the law? And my lawyer was right there. That helps, right? And he was standing there, and we got to share this thing. Had it all on video, and they said, okay, stand down. They're not breaking the law. We actually got permission from the security guy, but he didn't tell the dude in charge. And that's so cool how God can step in and cause confusion, and they start going at each other, getting all mad, and it was just beautiful. And then when we were ready, we left, and then the nation, whatever, and then here come the professional liars, AKA, news people, that come in and start hacking it all to pieces. Yeah. So fast forward to the next year, where I was out of town with a bunch of kids. I helped them plan this, but we said, hey, we're not looking to just get all this, it's not about us, but let's go keep an eye on things and just stand in the back and pray. It was a public event, get a $1 ticket, come in. That's not even make a scene at all. There will be no shirts, there'll be none. Just stand in the back and just pray over this event, that children are not groomed and they're not abused and all this other stuff, and just pray for the people that are tormented here because they need it. A lawyer comes to just keep an eye on things again. He walks on and they say, you need to leave. He's like, I have a ticket. And then literally it was like persecuted for being Christian. Like, you're part of this. They had a whole list of things you cannot do, proselytizing, photographs, like all that. They said anybody in a white t-shirt, kick them out, because they're looking for me and those groups, the group of people. So everything they accused them of, they said, you need to leave. He's like, I won't. Just like if you had a black man, you're black, you're out of here. He should stand his ground. Yeah. He should get arrested. He should go to court, and he should have his day in court, and then other people should pay. This is exactly what happened to 4 people that happened to be Christian men that did nothing wrong, and they were invited. And this organization, the protected class, used Parker Police Department as their thugs, and they responded. Arrest them, and they did. Pulled them out. They got trespassing charges. They got a summons to court. The police officer was not going to give them anything. He was called into the command center that had marksmen on top. There's a dude over near the bushes in camouflage in an open field, not in the bushes. Weird, whatever. I don't get the camouflage if you're not going to hide. Anyways, and it was just very, very overt. But then he was ordered to give them a ticket. So now all of a sudden, and this is a lawyer, so this is a big deal if he gets held guilty. So we go in there, and the judge did, in my opinion, everything he could to make this go the other way. He said, you cannot talk about freedom of speech because this is trespassing. It has nothing to do with the Constitution. I said, wait, what? Are you kidding me? Can't talk about this, this, and this. And they're like, those were our strongest points. And he could have dismissed it because they didn't have enough evidence. He goes, I think there was, so we're going to go ahead and take it to the jury. So now we have to wait the whole day. And the way it plays out, it must be unanimous that all 6 people say that they're not guilty of all 6 charges from the town. And at the end of the day, it's exactly what happened. All 6 people were like, this is wrong. And it was awesome. And at one point, my buddy Brad, his wife, came out and said, would you pray? So I led prayer, which is an honor. Anybody asked me to pray, I just go, man. I don't even think, just go right into it. It's an honor to pray. So prayed, and then got other prayer warriors praying. God showed up, done deal. It was like, this could get drawn out longer, and God was like, won't you take the rest of Holy Weekend off? And it was cool because they get to go home, and there was tears, and there was hugs, and just good folks, and we had a victory on Good Friday, right? And it was fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, watching that prayer, you recorded it, and I'll put that in the podcast here. Not being there, you could feel through the screen the emotions in the room. You could feel just the sovereignty of that space, and recognizing everyone in that room knew that coin could go either direction.
Yeah.
The verdict could go either way, but being able to say, God, I fully trust this in your hands, and I believe you are in this. And as we give this to you, we expect you to show up.
For this opportunity to stand. We know that Good Friday didn't look good at the time, but overall, it is. It's unbelievable that you would do so much for us, and this marks that day. But I just pray right now for these men that are in there right now that stood where others wouldn't. They didn't just stand for their kids, they stand for all kids. And all of the things that were implied with that, the gist of it is that your sons stood in obedience to you. Today they're being persecuted potentially, and we just pray that you would just show up either today or in the future, but your will be done. So we just pray right now, Father God, it would be so amazing if it was your will to just show up right now as only you can and just make this thing right. So either way, even if you don't on this day, we just trust you with this overall. We just thank you. Just let these men know in their hearts that we're absolutely proud of them, that we stand with them united, whatever the outcome. And ultimately that you, Father God, you see them. Let them feel that this day that their lives would change, because on this day, as a marker in their life that they stood, and during being oppressed for other obvious political reasons, Father God, there was another agenda, but yours is bigger, and they trusted you with that. Let this mark a day that warriors were born. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Amen.
To see that he did, and I'd imagine it was Good Friday, the day before Christ was persecuted and hung on a cross. I'm sure there's a similar feeling running through some of those people in that room.
And it was very much, because it was touch and go. We didn't know where it was going to go, but it leaned that other way due to the judge's call just prior to that. So we came out there and prayed, and I was, even if you don't, okay, God, even if you don't do it today, we're going to support these men and let them know they're loved. And it's like, thank you, God, that their warriors are born today. Right? These people, when you're persecuted and you come out the fire on the other end, you're different. Once you do it, you've done it. Like, okay, now I've done it. Right? So these guys have done it now, and they stood. And I sat there and I told Brad this. Within that room, I wonder how many people, including myself, I was like, I kind of wish I was sitting there with them. Yeah. Right? And I even love that the Lord removed me from this one, because we could have been arrested that first time. Removed me from this one, because it's not about Jimmy. Right? And other people came up, and then they're like, Jimmy, good thing you were out of town, because they would have crucified you. And I'm like, I kind of wish I was up there with them. Yeah. And this is before we knew the outcome. Part of me does. And I wonder how many men was like, I don't have a story like that. And we made the joke. I was like, I've never been to jail for anything good. You know what I mean? I've been in jail, but not for anything good, not for standing for righteousness, right? So to have those stories when you do face the Lord and you do face you're in heaven, it's like, hey, where are your scars? And you don't have any? What are your stories? And you don't have any? What are you even doing, man? You're born in a world at war, and they're literally destroying my children, and you got nothing? You got no stories? That's pretty pathetic, right? And that's your story.
Well, even on top of that, thinking through the whole idea of first followers. I mean, I think 2023, you kind of led a group of men who followed you.
Yes.
But now 2024, you have a group of men who went back to the same thing. Consequences came with it. Yeah. And they got to see how to play this out, and probably for themselves got to see, okay, here's how our court of law works. Yeah. Here's what we can do better next time or do differently next time, and how this will play out in a court case. And there's a group of men who's not only there in the courtroom, but everyone who get to witness it saying, okay, now I get to kind of sit with this feeling for a minute, and maybe next time I will take a stand. And actually have something to say.
Amen. Because everybody talks tough, but when it's time to, even showing up and sitting there and showing support, is something, man. That's something. They need that. Right? And it's the least you could do is go sit in a chair. Not even asking you to stand, I'm asking you to sit, man. Just sit here in a comfortable chair and just show support. Yes. It's funny you talk about the first follower. This came up in I saw this video, my son showed it to me, and he's 11. And then I was like, that's brilliant. And I recorded it and I brought it up in one of the men's groups. And if you ever hear the guys talking about second squirrel, like the first follower, it's like I always say second squirrel now. So you got to find this video. Here's the gist of it. There's a squirrel that comes up and there's an owl and it's looking, they eat squirrels. And this squirrel comes up, looks at him and goes, rah, and jumps on him, knocks him off the fence and falls. And then you see the second squirrel, ha! And he jumps in. And I'm like, hey, bro, I need you to be my second squirrel. Doesn't make any sense, but I got to go. And if I do, you better go with me, right? So we were like talking about the second squirrel thing. So we got to put that video in there. It's just so awesome. You're like, hey, man, I guess Jimmy's going, I'm going. Here we go. Or Tyler's going, I'm going. Here we go. So good. So that's Good Friday. That was a celebration. It was so awesome. Just beautiful people standing together. And then next day, the 19th, was Saturday. That was a lot of chilling out, kind of getting ready for Resurrection Sunday, aka Easter. And then we had some friends come in town, the Lithics there. It's cool that people come from Vail for not just this year, many years. They've come from Vail to do this walk up some stairs with us on Easter morning. On Resurrection Sunday, we were at the top of the stairs at the MAC Miller Activity Complex in Castle Rock as the sun comes up over our town. Right? And right when it comes up, there's a bunch of people holding their kids. They're doing the thing. It's a little chilly. The kids are all playing. They find a snake under a rock. I'm like, what are you doing flipping over rocks? But it's just Americana, right? And then the sun, right as it peaks up, we got some little music playing, Hosanna, and the sun comes up, and I just say a prayer, and it's ready break, and then we've got a big old carafe of coffee down at the bottom with donuts. And the Olympics, they sponsored that this year, so they show us boxes of donuts like this. And another church is right over the hill, and they see us up there. I get texts, they're like, hey, we see you up there, that kind of thing. And it's just beautiful. We had 69 people. That's awesome. That got up at 5:30 in the morning. Yeah. And then 67 of them. One just had a hip replaced, and then my wife wasn't feeling well, so she's down in the car. She drove the kids, it's just beautiful. Yeah. It's an amazing kind of tradition now, and Easter should be a big deal.
Yes.
Like that's just the resurrection of Christ should be a huge deal, bigger than Christmas.
Yeah.
And we try to make it a good start to it. And then we went off to an amazing service at Brave Church. Fantastic, just bold talk from Pastor Jeff. And then we came back and did brunch at the Pegasus in Castle Rock, fantastic restaurant. We've been there every year with our family, got a good family picture. And then I go back in the backyard. My son is his new thing is backflips. his cousins, and one of them's like 6'5", and he's an athlete, and he's a big guy. He can look you in the eye and just turn a backflip. And then so can his brother, just boom. And now Christian wants to do it, so I'm helping him and all that. And I recorded it, and part of it is just like, what a great day. Yeah. Like he just wants me to help him, give him a little support as he does this thing and musters up his courage and all that stuff. And then we just kind of chilled out and just enjoyed the rest of that day. It was, what did you have on the docket?
Man, so we had 4 services at the church. So we had an Easter egg hunt the Saturday prior at the church. We had a couple hundred people come out for that, and just got to see families who either been at the church now, been in the church in the past, or just kind of new to the area, getting ready to kind of come and just have a space to where they can feel comfortable, not feel like they're stepping into a church property and I'm going to get the Bible thumped at me, or I'm going to expect some person to walk up to me and tell me about Jesus. They can come and kind of just get comfortable with the space. And then Saturday evening, we had 2 services, 4 o'clock and 6 o'clock. So being on staff there, of course, I'm asked to be there, which was a joy to see. And then Sunday morning, man, we were just blown away with a number of people, again, who came back to celebrate with us. I think we had roughly 1,200 people in the first service.
Sunday?
This last Sunday, yep,
okay.
20th. And then we had 1,500 in the second service. And so it was a lot of people, but again, it was so cool to see. I mean, a church been around for 50 plus years, and to see kind of this legacy of people coming in, even down to, I had the honor that morning to help our founding pastor out of his car. He's on the early set of Parkinson's. And just watching this man who is mentally losing in his physical body, what all he remembers, but watching him walk down the hallways and being able to recount and recall these memories and these stories, and be able to look at people and say, man, I remember you when you were this tall, and they're now 65 plus. It's just an amazing moment to kind of sit there and see, God, you're still working and moving.
Yeah.
And Sunday afternoon, we got to come home and building relationships with our neighbors. So got to hang out with some of our neighbors that afternoon and just hang out in the beautiful weather of Colorado. Yeah. And then, man, we hit the hay pretty hard that night. But it was good. It was solid.
Earned that sleep. That's good, man. Just beautiful. Like, that gratitude. So even this morning, as you know, chaplain at Summit Christian Academy. And what an honor, and this will be closing out pretty soon because it was for this school year. I won't be able to do it next school year because there's going to be a lot of traveling commitments for me. And I wrote up a thing today and submitted it, like what's working with the kids and what's just a really good, that cadres format. That's slightly altered to get them to engage. And it's just been a great school year, kind of like getting to know them, earning their trust, getting them to engage, and then just informing these messages. Like throughout the week, just something will touch me. And I'll present it to them, and I'll write it up and put together like a little lesson, sermon, whatever. And then I'll also, typically that will be the talking point for Sunday with my kids on the couch, because it dawned on me, like, you're pouring into these young people. Do your kids know this, right? And if it was like, well, I think they do, it's like, have you sat them down and told them this? This is kind of old school of like, how would they know if I didn't tell them, right? And then it'll typically come up in one of my men's groups, either the Friday morning or the Tuesday evening and all that stuff. And that's been good. It's been healthy. One's called Risers, the early morning one, and the other one's called Ignition, to ignite men. And we have men on fire that are now stepping into other things. Save the Storks is one of the initiatives, and the ultrasound buses, so that women can hear, the heartbeat and see their little baby and then choose life.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah, so I want to shift gears a little bit here, because I don't know if it's just me, but I have never seen an attack on marriages and on family like I've seen right now. And perhaps, I just know a lot of guys, and from growing up in Kansas City to being in the military and living in Virginia Beach for a long time, and then going to Montana, we didn't know a ton of people. We had some good friends there. But I just know a lot of people, probably more than any place I've ever lived combined. And I believe we've opened that door and kind of earned some credibility to where guys will kind of talk pretty openly to me. But if I mention anything, like we were talking about in my marriage, or any of those struggles to just better communication, here it comes. And guys are hurting,
Yeah.
And I was just talking to my mom within my family, some cousins and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, so-and-so, they're separating, and then so-and-so, they're also not doing well, and so-and-so's son took his own life, and it's like, this is just, it hurts your heart because it's coming from every direction.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, we're mass producing broken. Like it's just, when you look at, let's just talk about public schools for a second, because it's not gloom and doom, because there are some, very few charters, because they still receive funding, and then obviously in Christian schools, actually some Christian schools, man, you're not seeing a lot of recipes for good, like for sustainable. So as you're sitting here mass producing broken, and then being surprised when there's consequences, we haven't even seen the consequences yet. They're starting, but we haven't seen the magnitude of a few years ago, the decisions we made, and we're gonna, and it's bad. Are you seeing this, or is this me?
Absolutely. I think across the board, I mean, I think we were talking about this earlier, it's interesting to see for myself as I'm raising two little ones, a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old, and luckily my parents are still here locally, so we get to see them regularly. But watching the marriage kind of shift, and we were talking about this, feels like in my mind, my generation of parents grew up in this Betty Crocker world where you got married, you kind of followed this step. You got married, you had kids, you had a job, you raised your kids, they graduate high school, hopefully you're going to church every Sunday, you hope your kids do the same. Once they hit the age of 18, it's kind of like, hey, we're done. And then the parents come back to an empty home and they're like, what do we have left? And their marriages have taken a back burner because their kids were their priority, because that's what they were taught to do.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden, they lack the tools or the skill set. The marriage has been on the rocks for so long, they didn't even recognize it. The foundation that's left is minimal at best. And in order to even rebuild it, you both have to kind of say, all right, we've got some work to do. And either we're committing to this, or unfortunately what I'm seeing is a lot of people saying, I don't even know where to start with this.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to see my way out.
What do you think, and this is something that's been heavy on my heart, and Jordan Peterson has several lectures, and you can find them online about this, but anytime it says something about like, don't do this for women, and 10 rules like, don't let women control you, don't chase women, and at first you're like, man, I don't need to listen to that stuff, and then I did. So it's spot on. It's so good. Now, some of the stuff biblically, I would stand, obviously I'm going to stand for my marriage, and I just want to throw this out there that I am not giving up on my marriage. I'm not giving up on Rachel ever. That's never going to be a thing. When he says walk away, I think a lot of times he's talking about dating, and now you're all of a sudden she's become the focus of whatever, and that's never what she wanted. So one of them in particular, he was talking about stop chasing your wife, and that spoke to me. It's like, hey, stop chasing her, because it's kind of pathetic. Like as a man, like provide for her. Yes, pursue her heart, but not like a puppy that's lacking affection. You know what I mean? Because now it's like, he's not the guy I thought he was. He's not the guy I married, and not. Yes, when you're getting better, that's a good change. But man, he used to have balls. Like that's a bad thing if your wife doesn't. She no longer respects you in that regard, right? So when I'm listening to those things, I am always, and I'm mature enough, I believe, to listen to this and dissect and eat the meat, spit out the bones. Is if you're listening to that and it's not in line with my faith, then I'll take a note of that. But he has a way of saying things. I told you this earlier. I had something on my heart. I was, a question, and I mean this, and I'll air this out with guys responsibly, like, ooh, don't talk about that. No, talk about it, right?
Yes.
So I don't see a lot of masculine men in schools and in churches, and that bothers me, right? Or they are, but they don't act that way in church. And I'm like, why is it outside of church? And the thing that dawned on me was, Job wasn't the man he was because of his wife. He was the man he was despite his wife. Yeah. And that's hard to come out of my mouth, to say that, when I say that, it's like, it's careful. It's like, no, let's air that out, right? It's like, you should curse God and die. That's not a lot of marital support, right? So it's like, hey, you don't need her to do your purpose. Like, are you going to serve God? And I brought this up to a mentor of mine, and I said, what I'm seeing across the horizon is kind of pathetic, actually. It's like these guys are so, even in Christian counseling, everything's so, I'm not asking for a level playing field because we're made differently. But there is some kind of justice. Do people have the courage to tell women the truth?
Yeah.
Because I'm not seeing a lot of it. I'm not seeing a lot of it. It's like, well, and I'm like, hold on a second. It's, oh, you feel like you're doing all the work. No, I'm doing most of it when we're talking about pursuing this marriage. Like, well, you're a Navy SEAL. This isn't a drill, whenever you're not a drill instructor. I'm like, you've never been in my house ever. Like there, you would see effort after effort after effort, and then you would see disrespect, and I'm just not going to chase it anymore. So if you need anything, as a matter of fact, if you want anything, let me know, and I'll do the best I can to provide that. But I could use some help, right? Because I'm not a mind reader. So I think at some point people need to hold on to those things that are a masculine strength, and spend a lot of time defining that, by the way.
Yeah.
And one of the things that was reassuring to me, because people are like, oh, you're asking me to be a doormat. No, the things God put there get to stay. That's good, right? Some of the stuff I invented, we need to look at that, right? I need to grow, and some of that is this way. You know, like we talked about that 10, you know, there's a whole other 10. So 1 to 10, 1 sitting in the chair, 10 doing the hardest thing you ever did. SEAL team taught me there's a whole other 10. And now we said, what about 1 to -10? You know, and you're like, but it's only 1, but it's your 1. It's a little much for some people. So let's learn how to be well-rounded. Not weaker. Don't ever try to make me weaker, right? So don't ever try to make any man weaker. Let's redefine strength. And that's where I think a lot of people, we don't even open the book on that. Because everybody's like, rah, 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 jiu-jitsu and guns and kill and death. It's like, not that, right? Yes, do that. Learn how to shoot people, then don't. Learn how to punch people, then don't. Learn how to choke them out, then don't, right? But you never even went over this way. You never got to, you need to work on being decent. You're like, I'm the most dangerous man in the world, and like in a good way or bad way. By the way, I don't trust you, so I'd never call you. You're never going to save anybody because your phone won't ring. Why? Because you're a psychopath. But at least you're dangerous. It's like, wait, what? Like you're very bad kind of dangerous, but you don't have credibility. So therefore your phone won't ring, so you never saved anybody, right? So that's just a horrible recipe, and it keeps repeating. So I think until we can get to the truth, we don't even have a foundation on which to build. So redefining that real strength. You talked about that, was it Scream?
Yeah,
Free?
Scream Free Marriage.
Is that a book or is it a
book.
program?
Who it's by. No, it's a book by Hal Edward Runkle, Calming Down, Growing Up, and Getting Closer. And it's interesting, you read the title, you think about, okay, I don't scream in my marriage. I don't get loud, we don't verbally argue at a loud level, but what he's talking about is this internal scream that's occurring. And the thing about, when you're talking about not chasing Rachel anymore, what I hear is more of, I'm not chasing to fulfill this list. I'm going to chase your heart, which in doing so, I'm actually going to look at myself. And when we look at it from a tactical standpoint, there's almost this thought that comes to mind of, you look at this leaderboard outside of this room, and people look at this time and they say, I'm going to chase the time. Great, but if you completely miss all the fundamentals before you get to the time, you'll never actually be able to replicate that. And so there's an element to which I think as men, we have to learn to let go of what our need is, meaning our need being what we believe, the expectation we've built in ourselves of what we desire in a marriage, and replace that need with a want. I can want Casey to make dinner every night. But if she doesn't, if it's a want, then it's I'll wipe my hands of it. But if it's a need, then I come home, dinner's on the table, I have to help clean up the kitchen, then it becomes an area where the enemy gets to get in and say, all right, you recognize you needed this and she didn't do this. Now you can start having this bitterness and this anger and this resentment stir up inside of you. But whereas men, it's funny when you were talking about that video of J.D. Vance talking to the reporter is what comes to mind. Is there's a level and an ability as men to women in a marriage and in a relationship in general where you can have a true hard conversation. And both of you can leave feeling heard, respected, seen, known. But that is a skill that has to come. And unfortunately what happens is, I think especially as men, we're still, although the world around us is evolving and increasing in its own understanding, we're still primitive in nature. So if I go to Casey and I handle myself inappropriately, and her response to me says that was the wrong way to handle it, I just say I'm not going to do that anymore. Instead of asking myself, what could I have done differently, I just say, okay, I'm not going to go that route, I'm going to try this one next. And one of the things our marriage counselor actually challenged us on, which was intriguing because it's been 5 years of marriage counseling, and probably last year I've really started to think about it. He said, I tell couples to stop telling each other what to do. Because what happens is then your marriage is built on a to-do list. Your marriage is built on, okay, if I come home and take out the trash, I pay the bills, I make sure the bed is made, then I will get this. And it becomes a transactional relationship. Versus a matter of we both want to come together in oneness and in unity, and because of that, we'll figure out all the rest as we go. But it's something hard to practice, because I think even thinking through like the definition of failure is failing to achieve what you wanted. And sometimes the alternative is, well, I didn't fail to achieve it, I just chose something easier. So it's easier for me to slide a piece of paper across the table saying I want a divorce versus actually saying, no, I actually really want to make this marriage work.
Yeah.
So which one of the options are you willing to choose?
And I think that is an absolute blessing. And I've said this to my daughter because she was like, heard us an argument or something like that. And again, we're not screaming, not throwing stuff. Go fix me a turkey pot pie. It ain't like old school. Like I've just seen marriages like that, and it's absolutely devastating. It ain't that, but it's not healthy either. It's not what I would like my daughter to be married into. It's not what I want the way that I would like my son to lead that. But we're very honest with him and saying, hey, this isn't easy. Sometimes this is hard, and God is, my pastor said this, and it stung, and it kind of pissed me off for a second. But then all of a sudden, it was like it really landed well. And he said, your job is to love your wife as Christ loved the church. Well, what did the church do to him? Spit in his face, accused him, and then killed him. Right, like all this stuff. It's like, yet he still loved. And he says, so the worse your wife gets, then congratulations, you get a chance to be more like Jesus. And I was like, you kind of belittled it, and I don't appreciate that. But then I thought about it, I'm like, that's true though. It's true, right? Because what she's doing, I'm still in charge of me and how I love. And you've heard me say this, can you love while being disrespected? I feel like God asked me that, like it's just prayer time. I need somebody who can love while actively being disrespected. Doesn't mean she means to, but it means I'm gonna put you through some stuff, and I'm gonna use her to do it. I'm like, I appreciate it if you didn't. And he's like, you don't really get a choice, right? Because I see what's going to be, right? So the fact that we're stubborn, that both of us we're just stubborn. Yeah. But I've seen that we've applied that to our marriage. Like, I'm going nowhere. Let's figure this out, and I don't have to be happy, and I don't have to like it, but that's kind of the deal, not looking at the door. And then a buddy of mine, when I was talking about this, a mentor actually, older gentleman, Christian guy, solid dude, and I was like, I'm about done with the yes dear thing, because the passivity that I'm seeing, I'm done with it. And he's like, how about yes Lord? And I was like, oh man. He's like, I got a thing in my office that says yes Lord, because it was such a groundbreaking. I'm like, oh. Like, so easy, but how am I never, right? When you say, yes, Lord, you will serve Rachel better, but it's not by me being a doormat, right? And that's exactly the deal, is that it just feels like those buzzwords when she says something like, and this, women know it cuts you to the bone when they go, well, I don't feel safe. That can put you in jail these days. And I go, what does that mean? Because you're like the safest woman on the planet, and you can do the blah, blah, blah. Well, not that. What, you think I'm going to hurt you? No, I don't. You think I'm not going to pay the bills? No, I don't. I'm out. Well, I just feel like if I talked, you would say something. And I'm like, well, careful with your words, though, right? So, okay, so you're saying that, if I tell our daughters, like, hey, when you're rooting for the other team, or for your brother, Christian, remember that the parents of the other kids are right there too. So just, it's like, oh, you're always critiquing and correcting. I'm like, it's my job. So that kind of thing turns into that, and the devil's laughing his butt off, but that's just not a big deal, right? So to be able to just, and what I'll do is I'll take the bait, and then I say something foolish, and I shouldn't have. And that's what I'll continue to work on, is like, okay, I'm gonna ask you a question, it's gonna go this way. And then I'm like, all right, head up, chest out, okay, right on. And that's the part where I'm saying I'm not gonna chase you down the street anymore. I'll be here forever, and I'm in charge of me, and men should have that masculine, sometimes quiet strength. Yes, if it's called for and you need to get out of your seat and all that stuff. Like I've told Rachel forever, like if somebody's, and my girls this too, you handle it. Stand up and handle it. And if you can't, that's when Dad comes in. That's when I come in, right? But not like my boyfriend will beat you up. Not that silliness, like when you're stinking 15, right? It's stand up for yourself and know that I'm right here. And then if I need to step in, I will, right? Because they can. Certain things, obviously, if it goes past the line, then I'm just gonna get in there. And they do. Like they're bold, and there's things that take the best of your mother and the best of me, and this other stuff that's just real. Man, I pray they don't replicate that. You know what I mean? and we don't get them involved with the particulars, but I'll be very honest with them. Like, hey, sometimes this is hard, and we should be showing you something better. It's just a tough time right now. So whatever. And then we'll talk about that, and then we'll get through it, and then they'll see the happy side of it.
Well, and the beauty behind that is through the de-escalation class and emotional intelligence that comes into play, that as men, I think naturally men just lack emotional intelligence.
They do.
We look for the easy way out, which is the physical attributes. We look for those things. We almost drool over our wives saying, I just wish you did 1, 2, and 3. And the moment we hear those 3 things, they go into our mind, and we never forget them.
Yes.
But then the problem is you do those 3 things, and you're like, what did I miss? Because something was lacking there. And for a female, and I'll be careful in saying this, but I believe that females lean more towards the emotional intelligence side.
Yeah.
And when I think about, again, going back to the idea of chasing, it's easy for anybody to chase something. But the hard part is actually looking at the back part of that, the discipline that goes into building the stamina to develop the chase.
Yes.
And the beauty behind hearing you say, for your girls or for all your kids, I want you to stand first, is you're giving the ability to practice for the next time. And then you can come in and coach, or you can encourage, or you can say, you did so good at being able to articulate your feelings and your thoughts, but maybe you could have done it this way instead.
Sure.
And now they're thinking about it. And really what you're doing is you're equipping them to actually go into a conversation, whether the future spouse or a coworker or a boss, and they're saying, how do I get into this conversation and communicate my feelings, but also always have that trigger turned on of thinking about how are they responding? How are they hearing this? How are they thinking about this? And I can imagine even you sitting on the sidelines of Christian's game, I would not be surprised if after the game you went and shook hands with all of the opposing player parents.
Yeah.
And they're watching, okay, Dad went and said hi to all the opposing parents and said hello. Even if Christian's team got their butts whooped.
Right.
And like, interesting how that was received and responded to.
Yeah. And I enjoy football, and I could care less if football was ever played again. Because like in NFL, it's just become such a circus, right? But I fell in love with football when he started liking it again. I would rather watch him play football, and he does have some talent. And I know everybody thinks their kids, everybody thinks their kid's cute, like that kind of thing. But he does have talent. But he knows this. What I'm watching for, and I told him, is like, hey, I just saw a thing. Like maybe he got all fed up and did something, right? Let's see. What did he do? He lost and he was pouting and doing this kind of thing. And I was like, hey, lift your head. If he looks over and I go like that, I'm like, get your head up right now. Like that. Learn how to win, learn how to lose, and tighten up, man. Because I will pull you from football. I was like, your character is worth more than your football stats to me. Right.
100%.
So and now he is actually educating other people, and he's that positive voice, and he's high-fiving, and he's the guy that hands the flag. It's flag football. He's handing them back to their kids when one kid threw it in his face, like because he was hard to get him, and then he finally got him, and then he threw it in his face, and he goes sportsmanship, and the kid was like, oh, and the kid benched himself because he knew the coach was coming. And I appreciate the other coaches just helping these kids figure this out, because they watch the NFL and think that's how you act. I'm like, negative. Not my son. He's not acting like that, right? And then he does. He's like, okay, you're going to do this better. It's not how you treat people, right? No. Get passionate, bring it, give it all that stuff, but you're not going to be able to turd. So that's just the deal. You brought up the de-escalation class, and that's been such a good class. Pretty much every time I've taught that class, a new class that we put out there, and I thought it was going to be about de-escalating high conflict deals. It's become so much more of that, because once you go, peel the onion layer on that one, you're like, if you don't know the truth, then you can't call out a lie. And if you don't know who you are and whose you are, you don't even know what's really going on here. You have no idea that there's actually spiritual warfare going on, and you're just some dude that's witnessing it, and that the truth is going to solve this thing. And I ask people, have you ever said this? Do what I say or I will hurt you, to your kid. And not the words, like, because they go, no, of course not. And I go, not the words, but it might look like this. Take the trash out now. I'm not going to tell you again. And your whole body language is saying, or I will hurt you. By the way, you're this tall, he's this tall, you're bowed up, they call it posturing in the animal kingdom and in human beings, posturing. I'm like, do it all right. And you're talking to this little dude this big, and what he's hearing is, or I will hurt you, or a little girl, right? That voice comes up, you bow up, and you're talking to him like a dude in the bar. And you didn't realize it, right? And this beautiful thing happened that now is in the curriculum that my son taught me probably when he was 9 or 10. And I call it innocent giggle. I caught myself in that moment because if you're like me, I think if you buy a set of spoons and forks and knives, you're going to have them forever. Like they're either in your mouth or they're in the sink or they're in the dishwasher, right? And I'm like, how are you out of spoons, right? So anyways, I see him and he's scraping off with a fork or something. No, I thought he was going to do that. He walks over and throws everything, the paper plate, the fork, everything in the trash. And I go, hey, you threw away your fork. But it was kind of like a jerk. I was like, it's like, I wanted to, all that was in my mind. And he just looks over and he goes, and then he picks it up and takes it and puts it in the sink. But it wasn't laugh in your face. It was kind of, so I did. And then he just made it right. And I go, hey, come here a second. First off, I'm sorry about, I kind of, that wasn't the right way to say that. But what you just did, I go, hang on to that, because if you can keep that, you're bulletproof. Like when people kind of do go overboard, and it's kind of like that, you're like, so I did, whatever. And then he walked away like nothing had ever happened, right? He could hang his head, he could do all this stuff. And I apologized, and I said, do you forgive me? And he said, yeah, and we just moved on, right? Now he does it all the time, and so do I, and the family does it. Like they're like, because a little 9-year-old taught us how to be, how to be a man, right? That growth of just like, this is just not a big deal, man. Like it's a frickin' fork.
Yes.
So that was just a good deal. It's like when people realize it, and I study, and again, the instructor will try to read, and I see some of the older gentlemen that have already raised young men and women that are already out in the world. And I said, do what I say or it'll hurt you. It looks like this, and I demo it, and they go. And now there's shame, and there shouldn't be. It's like, hey, you're not done. People, and I've had people in tears come up after a speaking engagement and say, start going off about, well, it's too late now. And I'm like, it ain't too late.
No.
Like, to come to like an event, and somebody says one day, you know, Grandpa was like this, and then he went to this event, and everything changed. And man, his last 5 years, he finished strong. Man. It was like a new man. I didn't even recognize him, but I fell in love with that dude. You know, that still can be written. You know, and pursuing those hearts of those young people that you lost as in strength, not chase them down the street. It's just like, can we talk? I apologize. I just didn't know this. I remember my dad saying, I just didn't know this stuff. And I'm like, hey, we're done. This is okay, forgiven. And I really appreciated having coffee with him and hanging out with him and talking motorcycles and going on trips and all that kind of stuff, not knowing it would be a quick departure, and then it's gone. And then all of a sudden you're like, I really dug hanging out with my dad as men. Right? And there wasn't enough of it, but I appreciate it. I appreciate that stuff, right? So I think saying that out loud and not being the whole, let's hide it, pretend it didn't happen, because there's young dudes right now that are living it and they can change it. They can change it right now. There's other people that can go that are grandpas and they can go back and be that strong older man and say, look guys, I just simply didn't know. And I'm gonna ask you to forgive me. Maybe for the first time in their life saying that, because something's gotta happen, because this is just heading towards broken.
Absolutely. What I love about that is you nailed it right on the head. I think there's a lot of parents who have kids my age now as a 30-year-old who are like, man, I wish I would have known what I know now then. And it's like hearing even my own parents come to me and say, man, I'm sorry. We thought we were doing right by you, and really looking back now, we wish we would have done differently. It's like, Mom, Dad, I appreciate you saying that. And they take it a step further by saying, we're going to counseling now to figure this out for ourselves. And now I heard a sermon a couple of years ago about how as parents, our floor or our ceiling becomes our children's floor.
Amen.
But that floor can continue to raise as we continue to put into that and not operate this mindset. Once my kids turn 18, it's done and over with. No, you still have as long as you're standing above the earth, you have all that time to right what was wrong or to continue to bolster your kids' faith in their own understanding and belief about their own childhood and upbringing, as well as your own childhood and upbringing that came into that. And then being able to say, let's work through this some more and figure that out.
How would they know if we didn't show them that, right? So like as that, stepping in and saying, you know, I messed up. Will you forgive me? And then talking that, it's just more real, right? That pretending it didn't happen. It's even worse. What came to my mind is when you hear parents saying something, when they just lie. They flat out lie. Well, when you were little, we did. And it's like, man, you beat me with a belt. Like, what are you talking about? Like, I was there. Do you think I don't remember it? Like that kind of thing where they try to throw some dirt on that and cover it up real quick. So it's like, no, that didn't happen. So now all of a sudden credibility is lost. And you're like, now it's kind of, you're making it a dirty thing. Or if you messed up, cool, let's just get to forgiveness and move on, right? And now, you know, in the book we talked about this was you're at war with your 35-year-old dad. The problem is he's 70. You're never going to win a battle with that dude. The good news, he doesn't exist anymore. The bad news is he doesn't exist anymore. If he existed, then you could have a battle and maybe beat him up or something. The problem is he kept growing. And you're not so much mad at this guy, you're mad at this guy. Well, you think that guy's not feeling guilty about the way that some of the decisions he made and did all that kind of stuff, but he did keep growing, and the truth of the matter is he's a pretty great guy now, right?
Absolutely.
But you're still hung up on that. Back when you wouldn't let me play with my, like, okay, man, this is like, when I was, you know, a child, I acted like a child. I played with childish things. I talked like a child. When I became a man, I put that stuff behind me. And a lot of guys haven't. They're carrying around this, you know, that forgiving our forefathers I talk about. And not only within their homes and their actual fathers, but you know, even our forefathers. When we talk about, I was just at the Capitol where that statue was removed. We're going to try to erase people from today's standards, knowing back then you probably had done the same thing or worse. You know, like those people like, oh, if I'd have been alive during slavery, you'd be like, you'd have been the that would have been you, because you stand for nothing. Like, I know you stand for nothing to this dude or whatever, and you're talking to him, but they like to pretend, if I would have been the Western, you'd have been the guy hiding in the back, and Clint Eastwood would have been the dude shooting the guy or whatever. And you're like, I know you, man. It's like, you're born exactly in the right time, and here you are not standing. Or those people that will stand and say, okay, I have the faith to stand. And if I lose my job, then my boss, the Lord, can get me a better one.
Yes.
Right? But there's certain things you don't give on. I mean, it's kind of pathetic that we know who Jordan Peterson is, because all he does is boldly speak the truth,
Yes.
and he doesn't care about the consequences. And if that was all of them, he'd just be another face in the crowd.
Yeah.
But he's not. All of a sudden, he is. The way that he speaks and articulates this to young people, it's changing a nation.
Yeah.
Right? And people, and then here come the pastors. They're like, well, he's not. And I'm like, well, he's drawing bigger crowds than you, and he's bringing it and all that kind of stuff. So yes, I'm always sensitive to, is he speaking the truth according to my God, right? I understand all that, but something's going on there. And I think if more men male pastors started bringing it to that level, then we could change the world.
100%.
It's such a diet version of, even today with the kids in chapel, we were talking about Elijah and how not only did he call down fire, but then when they're like, that's God, and they took 450 priests and killed them. And they were like this, and I was like, what? Like that's God? That's God. That's your God. That's actually like what Jesus didn't, same dude.
Yep.
If you believe in a Trinity, there it is, man. So, okay, you can wrestle with that all you want if you like your Mother Teresa Jesus, but that's just not the truth.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, it's, even hearing you talk about tearing down statues, like we are just dooming ourselves to repeat the exact same thing we're standing at the Capitol steps to fight against.
Right.
If we're not willing to look at it and recognize the good parts of it and the bad parts of it, but right now we're choosing to hide the bad parts of it. I think the problem with hiding, well, the truth behind hiding is the fact that you choosing to hide yourself is always going to keep you even further from the God-destined plan you had for your life.
Yeah.
And yes, it is terrifying to be exposed.
Yeah.
100%. Because when you are exposed, there's nothing to hide from. You are vulnerable, you are real, you are raw, and you're in a place where your dependence on God has to be there. And I can't even fathom how somebody who doesn't have a faith in Jesus can stand in a place like that, which makes me understand why things like Pride Fest or BLM riots or any of these things occurs, because there's a fear that if I actually am exposed and outside of this hiding place, there's nothing else to save me.
Yeah.
So it's easier for me to actually hide behind this.
Yeah. Somebody just said, reminded me of, did you hear the Charlie Kirk, Jack Hibbs interview recently? So good. Those just, you talk about the two of the most trusted names in as far as where I get my information, and when they get together, man, just stand back. But they brought up a thing that was kind of edgy, much like this conversation we're having, because, obviously this will not be disrespectful for women, but I'm not going to sit here and say, well, careful, I don't want to. It's like, no, here's the freaking deal. They brought up a very pointed fact about studies talking about if a woman has had 5 or more sexual partners, it's pretty much a death sentence to a marriage. But God, right? So like if you funding your child to go to school and get brainwashed and get taught the ways of this world, that there isn't a God, that all this other stuff, absolutely brainwashed. By the way, promoting that they just sleep around and kill their babies is devastating this nation, right? So if you think pouring into your kids right now to know the truth about who they are and whose they are is such a big deal, because somebody down the road is going to be paying that tab. If there's multiple sexual partners, and they said, hey, this is going to sound bad, and do what you will. For the guy, it doesn't matter. It's wrong, but psychologically, women attach something to that act.
Emotional.
And for men, it's not right, but it's transactional. It's kind of like, it doesn't affect them in that way. But for women, if it's 5 or more, and it's not good that it's 5 or more, but if it's 5 or more, it's pretty much the death sentence. Because now he's going to have that. They don't understand exactly what happened within them psychologically and physically and whatever. But now there's some dude that's going to have to pay that full tab someday. And he doesn't know he's doing it, nor does she.
Nope.
But right now he's like, what is happening right now? I simply didn't say that or do that. It's like, this has nothing, maybe a little bit because you got to own your part, but there's a fraction of this that has to do with you, right? So there's a spiritual warfare going on, and she doesn't even know what's going on, and you're sitting here trying to fight battles you don't understand. And then he was like, at least knowing what you're facing helps. And now it's time for the Holy Spirit to come in. It's like, God, I got nothing, and I need you to show up right now. And both of them saying, and that, not making it trivial. If they'll just both do this, then, well, what happens when someone says no? Not doing any of that. And now you're carrying twice the weight. That ain't good. That's why it takes a man, right? It's where you're like, okay, then do you have that that fortitude that I love, the formidable? Are you formidable? Can you stand and say, God said this, am I not enough for you? Like to where that's like, well, I need a space and blah, blah, blah. And it's, not getting regular sex. Let's just say that's a very common thing. It's like, getting sex, whatever. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
Maybe next week.
Yeah.
Instead of throwing a fit on the way out of the room. Like, I've done it. It's like, that's not what I'm talking about. Yeah. So I need the guy that can love while actively being disrespected. And I'm like, okay, God, I don't pick that, but I trust you. Yeah. So I'm going to be your guy. Yeah. Right? And I'm going to put my head up, chest out. Yeah. And it's not a need, which it's called a need. It's considered in psychological conversations, it's considered a need. But if someone was divorced, would it be the need? Do they need to go out into like whatever? Or can they hold for a while until, and there's a thing in them that's gonna make me pursue Rachel more, right? Not overnight, but maybe over a long time. It's like, okay, would you start to resculpt your definition of strength? Because there's an urge inside you that's helping do it. It's not fully that, but I do want to pursue her heart, and there's a sexual thing and all that kind of stuff, but are you strong enough to do that? Yeah. And okay, God's like, you're up. What's your answer there, tough guy? Most guys are like, well, she doesn't do this, and my gut needs, and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, that's partially true, but so does she. Yeah. But how about you lead? Yeah. The tug of war that my pastor talks about, you're a tug of war. Well, somebody's got to let go first. Well, who's going to let go first? He says the one that's more spiritually mature. Maybe that's her. Maybe that's me. But that person goes, I got it, because God's enough. I'm not yes, dear, yes, Lord. Yeah. And now, yes, Lord, you start getting treated better, and now I am a safer place. And you do have, this is the place where you can be. I mean, I'm going, you're invited. I told her, I'm going towards healthy, and you're invited. Yeah. I won't chase you anymore. Yeah. But this is your home, and anything that you need or want, let me know, and I'll pursue that to the best of my ability.
That's beautiful. I think the picture comes to my head is, Case and I will be married 9 years in May, and what has been so intriguing in the last probably 2 years is really getting into these hard conversations. Yeah. And really kind of me prefacing the conversation, or her saying, I need to say this, but I need you to know I love you, I care about you, and you are enough for me. We're going to start with those 3 foundations, but here's the conversation. And to watch in those moments, whether I'm leaving the room angry, she's leaving the room angry, and a few moments later, both of us seeking God and recognizing we cannot stay in this place of anger, because the anger is only going to divide us and make us look less like Jesus to our daughters. Yeah. And as we find ourselves in these places, whether it's in devotionals or worship music in the living room, whatever it is, you can see this softness come over it. You can see this space resonate. And what comes to mind is, with raising 2 little ones, one of the ways we're trying to raise our girls is helping them understand your emotions are never too much. Let's figure out how to utilize them. And so with our oldest, who's 6, we call her deep feeling kid. And there's times where, man, the tantrums come, and what we've been told, what we've been trying to do is we'll literally just go sit in her bedroom and just sit quietly. And to watch the way just your physical presence, in the same way I think God's physical presence is in with Case and I in those moments, just alters the room. I mean, anybody who's not a believer could probably even witness through a camera, there is something happening. And even thinking back to de-escalation, watching that video in de-escalation where the guy is standing from the door, not saying anything. And you watch people start to throw darts, and they recognize these darts aren't sticking. And all of a sudden, they recognize that throwing darts isn't going to do anything. Yeah. So how do we just get inside? Yeah. And he's like, I'm sorry, you're not getting inside. Yeah. And there's just so much. It's so intriguing with raising little ones. With that class specifically, especially, we talk about the posture aspect. And with little ones, I'm already taller than them. So me talking to them is literally talking down. But to get down on my knees, eye to eye, I can feel this change in behavior, this change in tone of voice. And in a marriage, it's the same way. But it's to your point, it's on a spiritual level. And it's really discerning, hey, God, am I going to lean on you more than I need sex right now? Or am I going to lean on you more than I recognize how hard her words hurt right now? Because I can recognize that in my head, but it takes me a minute to get from here to here. That whole 18 inches is a hard journey to make. Yeah, amen. But it's worth it.
And I think we talked about that, that image that God gave me of, she's feeling stronger right now. Because at one point I'm like, some people, if you had more strength, would you be cruel? Would you use it to be cruel? And why is that? And that's not where I landed. It was more of I'm feeling stronger, and I'm starting to deal with stuff from way back that I haven't touched, right? And when I start seeing this stuff, I start firing arrows in every direction. And in my mind, I'm talking about her and our children, and some of those arrows nick me. And if I know the truth, that the truth is those arrows can't kill me, then why'd you fire back, And that's it was just a deep thing to where it's like, why are you firing back? She's on your side. And she might be flailing around and firing at whatever, but you shouldn't be. right? So if you realize what's going on, it's like, hey, good job. I appreciate that you're stubborn and that you will fight for yourself and our children. And I'm your biggest cheerleader, by the way, right? So anything you need, then just consider it done, right? You will get support, you will get that, because that's my job, right? So there's half of me that's working on something, and I should support that half. It's getting me today. I love it when I get to swim, by the way, because I can sort out some stuff when I swim for 30 minutes, right? It's like, if part of me is weak, the other part can't get weak. It's like, well, you should be weak too to meet it there. No, you need to be stronger to pull the weaker part forward until it can get back on its feet, right? So it's like, this is part of you. It's not one or the other. This is part of me. And if she's in a moment right now, it is on me to lift my head up and quit throwing freaking fits. For whatever that reason is, it's like, hey, model strength. And if you scan the horizon right now, you're not seeing much of it. No. And you need to, right? We talked about that, the Job 29 man. I don't know many, and nor am I one, and we're fixing that, right? When I talk about him, his guy. I'm aspiring to be that Job 29 man, right? And it's like, okay. It's like, God's like, that's what I need. But I'm gonna have to work on something and you're not gonna like it. And I'm like, then bring it. And just bring it, right? Because I trust you.
Oh, that's good.
Awesome, this is good stuff, brother. Awesome. Okay, we'll wrap it up. We've covered some serious ground. New cool thing.
Fun stuff, yes.
You know any new cool things? I come across stuff sometime, and I've got a couple actually, and I've got a little confession to make.
Spill it here.
Right? Rachel already knows about this, by the way, but the other day I go in, so Colorado, do me a favor and support Colorado Motorcycle Adventures, because they just kind of took care of me a little bit. And it wasn't a big deal, but we've got a ride coming up, and just as a, kind of a save the date, in July, we do ITBs, intro to backcountries. We take out young people, and it's such a special thing. I let the other guys plan it this year because I'm going to the Camino, and that's a big deal. That's the biggest thing on my radar right now is walking across Spain with my girls. I can't wait. 17 and 15-year-old daughters walking across Spain with dad for 2.5 weeks. But after that, I come back, and one time this year, it won't be two, one time we're going on a 5-day adventure on the motorcycles, and it's a different one. So now it's, I've got a tractor, brother. I've got a GS. It's a 1200. That thing will just go through walls. But it's not the best bike for some single track and some more technical stuff. So I was going to rent this new bike out there called a 300L. It's a Honda 300L. Okay. It's kind of whatever. Go to rent one. I'm like, I'll just rent one, but it's going to cost a good chunk, right? So it's like, oh man, that's not an expensive bike, and it's a lot to rent it. But okay, I put a deposit down. The same day, my nephew Lance, who's in that industry, hits me up and shows me this Tenere. I'm like, oh, that's cool. What's on the other side of that? What is that? He's like, 300L. I'm like, oh man, it's getting good reviews. It's a light dual sport, kind of like the WR250R. It's just a really popular dual sport. So I'm like, oh, he's like, I got it as a package deal, and I'll make you a deal. I'll sell it to you, Uncle Jim, for this much. I'm like, oh no. So I go back in and I tell those guys, like, I'm gonna, hey, this was just yesterday. This is for July. It's not gonna cost you anything taking that offline. And they say, we got you. So there'll be a little service fee, but I'll get my money back, and then I think I'm gonna pick that up. So
that's amazing.
Super excited about that. And we've got,
so
we've got a new, this is a prototype, and this is kind of a first announcement just for our listeners here, because it's not done yet. But if you've heard of the Custom Shop, it's another seal, so this will be a seal collaboration. We're going to kind of make a big deal about this with half-face blades, right? So, we reached out to them and they took care of it. We really pursued Winkler. I'm not gonna close the book on that, because I really love and support what he's doing. It's not working out. I don't know why they're not getting back to us. And it was just, we had an idea. They weren't tooled to do it. A knife of my design that we like the angle forward. We messed with the grip and made it thinner so the control comes from the belly, pushing out a little bit further. But our logo on one side, a seal collab, means a seal company and a seal company. And I love it. And I've found that the place for me to wear it is cross draw low right here. Okay. So there's going to be that option coming up to where you get their sheath idea that puts it up and down, and then a little piece that I'll show when we do it that kinks it perfectly right over my belt for the left-handed draw. So it's pretty.
Yeah, and it feels so good. I mean, the way the wood molds, I mean, hand's a little sweaty right now, so even sticks even better. But it is a gorgeous blade. It
is so much fun. And typically, for the tactical reasons, going for your pistol, if you can't get to it, then on your left side, mounting your knife. Okay. So that if for whatever reason that hand was wounded or pinned or whatever, you can get that thing out. You can easily come over and cross draw it this way. Now you've got another way, but obviously still lethal that way. So that's a cool new thing. And I wish I could pull them from over here, but right on my butt. Have you ever heard of Double H?
Yes.
So I just kind of stepped away from area. It's been, pretty decent boots, but I was just I want to mix it up a little bit, and I just needed some new boots. The other ones have kind of done their duty. And when I say done their duty, man, I jump in lakes with my boots. I do. I just hard on them, and they've just done good for a long time. But the sole of these are just it's double H work. They're called Western style work boots, and I don't know if you guys dig on that. I know I was considering. Have you heard Brunt?
No.
Is that what it's called? I think it's Brunt.
Okay.
And I think it's like the Diesel Brothers dudes that promote them and all that stuff. So I was thinking about that. But I really like this. This is called Saddle, that extra piece of leather that goes across like that. So I like the square toe. They're a little more comfortable. And check them out. Also, obviously the Jocko stuff. So that was the Origin boots. I've got a pair of those. And they're comfortable and they're awesome. I get excited when I see cool things. And I like to throw it out there. Hey, you know what? Just pocket dump. What do you got? Let's just do it. Let's finish up with that.
So Leatherman, K2.
Boom.
Yeah, that's a go-to.
It's a great knife, right?
This is a Phoenix PD35 rechargeable battery. It's a little bit bigger, but it's been my pocket carrier for a number of years, and just charge the battery in cars. Good old handy lighter.
Yes,
With
I
your guys'
recognize that.
yes.
What's up, man? I got a little gangster lane going on. I gotta put my boot back on.
Ridgeline wallet. Trying to do the whole front pocket carry. Man, it's still pretty thick. Pushing over.
Let's see. I like 3x5 note cards to write little notes in this book. I just picked it up and threw it in my pocket today because I had some 3x5s that were falling out. Super cool. So I just threw it in there. Obviously my Able Shepherd keyring. Yeah. This guy's the coin in here. If you don't know this, mine says 001. Yours says 266. And with 331 we're up to. That's advanced training with tactics. 331 people from all over the nation or here locally in South Denver that can operate uniform, safe, and accurate on the same page. It's kind of a big deal. It's super cool. Obviously my keys. I've been trying out this new rechargeable, and this is
the stiletto.
This is called so that's the Surefire, right?
Okay. Yep.
This is a Streamlight Wedge XT, so it's the smaller version. It is rechargeable. A lot of times I prefer batteries because once it goes down, new batteries in your back end business. But the recharger has been, kind of a daily carry. It's flat in these 511 Defender Flex jeans right in that pocket right there. Sometimes I have an extra mag. I
feel like the most modern cars nowadays, which is why I carry this one, is you have all the USB ports in the car.
Yeah.
So I literally have a 2-pack of batteries sitting in my car right now that's constantly charging.
Yes.
So I just swap them out.
Yeah, and it lasts a long time. Every once in a while, like I'll bump it and it'll be on, and it burns down. Then I just gotta charge it up. Wallet, Cavalier made. My buddy Ryan Cavalier, I just ran into him in a football game. He designed this for me. It doesn't hold wads of cash, but I don't roll like that anyway. I ain't got any money anyways, right? But I wanted a Fisher Space Pen and a flashlight that I would never lose again, and I haven't since I had him design this wallet, right? So I've had this thing in my mouth, working on my car with the light on, all that stuff, really quickly writing notes, writing Bible verses, writing all that kind of stuff, and then just holding your essentials. I do it as a front wallet. Boom, best holster in the world, right?
I took mine off today. I have my appendix holster
what do you
today.
got?
So I have a Glock 19, TLR7, extra mags. The holster is T-Rex arms. Appendix, which I know not recommended. I love my Milt Sparks, but when working at the school, really, the problem I have is when I'm working with some of the students, on the backside, bending over and helping those little kids, it's just too much of a risk, I feel like. Them being like, there's a gun back there. Why does he have a gun? What's going on with the gun? And go tell mom and dad, there's a gun. So the appendix, I can feel a little more comfortable working with kids.
And that's, doctoring up. It's typically in training because we're pushing the edge and going fast, all that stuff. And we've just seen when people like, they're not doing it right. But when they do it wrong, they blow their nuts off. And it's happened up there at that other building, right? Not in our building, but it's happened over there. I'm rolling with it's a 48, but I've got it converted right now to basically a 43X with a shorter barrel on there. I like. For this particular gun, it's got, this is a Glock Store EDC magwell, and I just like it because keep my hands off the mag. I use this. This is part of the, what's it called? The Ulti-Clip, but I busted that off. I just need it to have a little more space so when I mag, it seats in there, right? And the Hogue grip, this gun's a little thin for me, and just a little bit of that Hogue overmolded grip just makes it just thick enough. It's not as thick as a 19, not as thin as a 43X, so it just gives a little more. And then that Milt Sparks Criterion with that forward slant and these magnetic cups is just money.
And it's got this super comfortable.
It's the most comfortable. I've tried many holsters. I always land back here. They make an amazing product. I believe that one is the Versamax 2 if you've got the dot, because it doesn't tilt as far forward.
Okay.
It's got a little less of a tilt for that red dot. So
Yep.
if you got iron sights, this is the way to go. I got extended controls on this thing, and I think upgraded sights, and I think that's
No extra Mac today.
no extra mag today. I think it's in my truck, or I
Okay.
think I pulled it out or something. So yeah.
There you go.
That's cool. I got to get it done with 10. Cowboys got it done with 6, baby. So I got 4 more on there. I even like not upgrading to the 15. Something about the weight. When you go 10 with this gun, the balance is good and the weight's good, and it's good. You're like, sometimes it gets so heavy or bulky, you feel like Costanza with the wallet, like in Seinfeld.
Yes.
You got back problems and all that stuff. And comfort is a thing. And I just love those clips. I didn't think I'd like them, but to be able to take this thing and just put it on. It's such an easy deal to just sink the cups around.
Yep.
And as soon as they go, those magnets grab.
Well, and the durability on it, man, has been surprising. I mean, I didn't go Seth Gammel's route of getting one in a month. I waited the whole year to get mine, but when I got
it's just been beautiful. It doesn't, I mean, as far as not printing, comfort, like all the goodness, right?
Yep.
This guy, obviously adjusting sights all day, and being a dad, you need a couple different screwdrivers and all that kind of stuff. And it just works. It's just a tool.
Yeah, if you don't have a Leatherman K2, I highly recommend it. I mean, it's a beautiful blend between just a good old trusted pocket knife and just the tools you need, especially the little ones.
And then back it up, coming soon with the new custom seal collab. That's going to be cool. It's cool to tap back into the brotherhood. That's kind of part of my job right now.
Yes.
As we're expanding the business and getting back, advancing the brotherhood and all that kind of stuff, is getting. I ran into I just saw a dude's truck and his license plate, and I left the card on there, so I just reconnected with another dude. But I haven't networked well, because I've just been getting after it, man. So I'm going to try to tap back into the SEAL community locally here, and then reach out to some of the brothers. Oh, heading back to Virginia Beach. I got so much stuff, man. My brother, Scotty Letellier, Master Chief Letellier, is retiring, so I'm going to be seeing Gary Ellis and some of the other brothers out there. And that's just cool. And it's just another thing too. It's it's like I'm just not that dude anymore. So go back, have fun, celebrate. But Virginia Beach just holds a lot of just memories of the dude I wasn't. You know what I mean? It's like I wasn't the guy I wanted to be then, and I'm just closer to it now. So that guy gets to go back to Virginia Beach and attach to the good stuff and just move on from the other memories, right?
That'll be good. When is that trip?
That trip is a couple weeks.
So you're gonna have some crazy summer.
And then followed by the Camino, and then followed by an ITB and Rich's Travel and all that kind of stuff. So it's gonna be good. Really excited about the team stepping up. We've got a lot of expansion stuff going on, and I talk about that so much because I want to basically speak it into existence and just keep it going. But I don't want to fall short of like he talks about it and doesn't do it. But it is heading that direction. We do have our financial package put together. It's about a 5-piece package, and it's. I would say it's impressive, and not because it's mine, not because it's something we built here. It's just when you look around the industry and you hire professionals and they start getting excited and they want in. They're not even pretending anymore. So we're going to change this industry for the better, and I'm excited about it. I think that if you own a gun range anywhere across the nation, that should be the hub for the good thing in this nation. I mean, the churches, the schools, and they're protecting children, they should headquarter out of your building and keep their skills up, and then invite them into adventures, not just physically, but spiritually and mentally. And if you're not, you're just missing an opportunity. So we're going there, and you're invited. So give me a call if you're interested. And other than that, ableshepherd.com. Check us out. I appreciate you, brother.
Yes.
Good to see you. And
Great
thank
to
you, man.
see you.
As always, and just great conversations. And until we see you again, we love each and every one of you. God bless you, and take care of one another. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us again for another episode. Please be sure to follow us and support us on all of the social media. That's Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram. All of that starts by visiting ableshepherd.com.